another great video. We're talking our relationship with money, how much money it means to be happy, and then we'll look at how that varies by generation. But Kevin, I'm going to start here with a quick question for you on the spot.
Yes.
I've got lots of happiness over here, and it's going out on a sale.
No!
How much would you pay for that happiness?
I think I would pay a large sum for happiness. More than anything else, I want happiness, and that's the biggest thing. So I would pay a large sum of money.
Just for you, low price of $1.2 million.
That's what happiness is costing today. Oh my gosh. Now, is that including everybody, or is that just me and my happiness?
Apparently that's just you. But that's what we're talking about today. There's a survey that came out, done by Empower. They had all the data back in August. They did the survey. They looked at 2,000 Americans. The results were tabulated, came out just a few months back. And that was one of the key questions. How much money do you need to be financially happy? First off, 6 in 10 Americans said you can buy happiness. 6 out of 10 said that was the case. The average price was $1.2 million. But we'll pull this on the screen here. You can see it does vary by generation.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest factor to take a look at as to where we go. And if you look over down, I mean, boomers, basically we're talking people that are already in retirement or at that point where they're entering retirement. So they have an idea as to what it's going to go. They're probably one of the most accurate, around $1 million. Then, of course, you've got that Gen X. These are the guys that are getting closer. They're in that area, you know, got the mortgage paid off. The kids are out of school. Maybe they're on their own now, just a couple scenarios. So, again, more of a realistic thing. I think when you start talking millennial, though, that's where it starts. Now you're in the bulk of everything. I've got college to pay for. I got to worry about my kids' activities. I've got my house and my mortgage left. So, again, going to be the larger thing. And then I guess we're sort of taking a look at that Gen Z. I have Gen Z kids. So, you know, you offer them $500,000 today. It is the world.
Life is fantastic.
They have no responsibility yet. So, again, the numbers are going to be varying. So, yeah, you can see where we're getting that 1.2 number from just based on those 4 sort of scenarios.
Yeah, it's the financial life cycle, right?
Yes,
Gen Z, early part of the life cycle, maybe they're still in school. They haven't really gone into the full career phase. They don't have debt yet. They're not trying to purchase a home. They don't have kids yet. Millennials doing all those things are the most expensive part of the life cycle, so maybe they think they need a little more. Gen X on the doorstep of retirement, boomers in retirement. You can see it's all reflected there, how they answer that question. And key is also perspective, and that brings us to the next question of the survey. What does financial happiness mean to you? We'll pull this up and you can see there's lots of options people could pick from, but surprisingly, the one that people selected the least, only 17% of the time, was actually reaching a certain net worth. So people defining financial happiness as $2 million or $1 million, that was the least likely option.
Yeah, I mean, that's very surprising because typically when everybody comes in, how much do I need to retire? They're looking for a physical number that they want. This is what I need to go on. But as the survey shows, it is not the most important thing. What we're finding, though, is if you take a look at the other side of the things, paying bills on time, being debt-free. You go with that, or everyday items to be able to purchase without any worry. Those are the biggest ones. Now, I say a lot of that probably has that influence from that sort of millennial, maybe Gen X, Gen Z scenario division. But again, it is very surprising to look at that. Knowing that number is not as important as some of the other things out there.
Which goes in contrast to a lot of what you see in the financial plan. How much do I need to retire? And they want a number. That's actually the lowest piece of financial happiness. When you actually get into retirement or thinking about retirement. And we'll go through this a couple of different ways. So we have how people define financial happiness, and then some fun with the survey. They're looking at what people would sacrifice in order to achieve their version of financial happiness and how it varies by generation. We'll go with the first one here, Kevin. I'll ask you, big ticket items, jet games, concerts, would you give that up in order to be financially happy?
That's a tough one for me. I mean, if I'm looking at it that way, being sort of that area, I want my big ticket items. I like having that ability to go and see these events live and in person. So, you know, it would be hard, but I probably could do it if it was financial happiness. I wouldn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, and you can see many boomers and Gen X said they would. Millennials, Gen Z a little less. And then a surprise here on the social media. More folks looking to give up social media. Boomers, it was like a no-brainer. 82% said yes. Millennial, Gen Z, still higher than I would have thought.
Yeah, typically I'm the same way because, I mean, I know just looking at it, I could give up the phone tomorrow. I don't need to deal with social media. It's not a big deal for me. But if I look at my kids, I mean, haven't we had places before where people would be able to give up a thumb or something along that line before they give up their social media if you're Gen Z? But again, you're right. As it shows, millennials are even less likely than Gen Z to give up their stuff. But I think it's because they've experienced both sides of the coin before getting to where they are.
Yeah, like Gen Z grew up on it. Millennials knew what it was like without and knows what it was like with those social media. A couple other quick ones here. You have coffee. Everyone seems to like their coffee. Not too many folks giving that up for financial happiness. vacations even more so. Boomers, the least likely with Gen X, they're to give up vacations. Millennials, Gen Z, a little more, but not by a wide margin. And then we'll get to the big one here, Kevin, phone technology. And you hit the nail on the head where it's tough to give up. But surprisingly, only 31% of boomers, according to this survey, said they'd be willing to give up their phone or their technology for financial happiness.
And that's very surprising. I guess never having that sort of scenario, having to grow up with physically changing channels and things along those lines, Nowadays, your internet's right in your hand. It's hard to give that up, I guess, no matter where you are. And you get more and more of, once you get into that retirement, you can sort of explore more of what you can do with your phone and technology as opposed to when you were in your working lifestyle. So, yeah, I can see that being a big factor.
Yeah, and then for the car, I mean, very few boomers and Gen X will give up the car, more millennials and Gen Z. And this could just be the new technology. If you're used to handling the public transit or used to the Uber, well, probably the car is not as big of an issue. Also depends where you live. I'm not sure where these folks lived in America when they were asking the survey, but you can see the results there. Fewer boomers and Gen X, more Gen Z and millennials willing to give up the car for financial happiness. Let's tie this back to retirement here, Kevin, and this is the last piece we're going to throw on the screen. You got in retirement, what are you most interested to pursue? And this lines up a lot with what we experience with retirees. The top three there, we've talked about this before. It's volunteering, it's getting a hobby, and it's traveling.
Yeah, I mean, that's the basics for what you do. All of a sudden, the retirees we deal with, that's what it is. I want to plan my life. I want to take this vacation, once a year. Or I want to spend 3 months down in Florida. Or, you know what? I'm going to make sure I'm doing my hobby. I'm doing some more volunteer work. They want to keep active, and they have some sort of a plan for it. But these are the big things. So, yeah, I mean, and, golfing regularly, nice, but not necessarily the thing I have to do. I mean, if I have to tell my wife, look, I want to golf 3 times a week and not vacation, that's not going to go over well at all by the time retirement comes up. So again, I think those 3 really make that sense. And as we've mentioned before, this all incorporates into the plan that you have to deal with for where you've got to go. You need to have some sort of an idea as to what you want to do in retirement before you ever hit that point.
And I think it's what the survey is driving at and the point we're kind of getting to. It's your relationship with money. Money is a tool to achieve your goal. Often that goal is retirement. It's a very common goal, a reason people save, and you need to have a plan to achieve that goal. And that's really what we're kind of driving at with all these different survey responses. A little bit of fun with some of the numbers, but it's making sure you have a plan to achieve whatever that financial goal is. If you like this video, we got others that go through some academic studies on how much money you need to be happy. That's probably floating on the screen somewhere. Click on that one. We'll see you again very soon.
Take care.